Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series premiere of His Dark Materials. A great series premiere, a lot of interesting thing. I feel like this was a very world-building type of episode, kind of giving you an idea what the world is like and setting up the story, but still not giving you too much about 100% of everything that's going down, because you get a few answers, but a lot of questions. We get introduced to our main protagonist, Lyra, who is the actress. I think her name's Daphne Keane. She played X-23 in Logan. So I was like, oh, that's cool. But essentially, it seems like her uncle, who's played by James McAvoy, which is also interesting. Yeah, that's just kind of a neat. I didn't even think about that until I just said it right now. It's like, oh yeah, the X-Men connection there. I think that's kind of fascinating. Obviously, he played a young Professor X, but regardless, two different time lanes and stuff. Regardless, I'm going on a bit of a tangent, but her uncle brought her there years ago when she was a baby, basically taking her to this college where these scholars have this. Essentially, they have what would be, I guess it's almost like their form of diplomatic immunity. It's just kind of it's kind of a safe space where the magisterium who kind of run things. I guess it's almost like a combination of church and state kind of running everything. Because of that, the scholars kind of get to do whatever they want to unimpeded. But even later on, they kind of bring up the fact that the matter is it's a privilege that they have to gain. And the fact of the matter is, it shouldn't be squandered or, taken advantage of. Which begs the question, how did you get a deal like that in the first place, where it's the magisterium would kind of stay out of your business? How did that get set up? I mean, is that something they're even going to talk about? I mean, I guess it's well, you're scholars, maybe you... I don't know. It almost seems interesting too, because it seems like they're looked upon whoa, you need to slow your roll about some of the stuff you look into, but at the same time, you also have free reign. It almost seems contradictory, but once again, I'm going on a bit of a tangent. We'll kind of dive into that in a little bit, but what's interesting is obviously we cut to years later. It's a whole situation of her uncle Azrael coming back, which part of me wonders, is that her actual uncle? He actually doesn't seem that uncle-y. It's especially considering this might be the only family you have out there. You don't seem it seemed like obviously you were so concerned about her as a baby, but it seems like he comes back very infrequently, and it almost seems like his work matters more to him than her. I mean, that's why I get, it seems like it might be a situation of either that's not actually his niece, or he's just kind of I kind of got the responsibility of taking care of you, because Lyra brings up later on, because he's on a ship and everything, and she's like, did my parents die in an airship like this? And it's no, it was a smaller one. So obviously that's why she latches onto her uncle. He's the only family she's known. But I guess in a sense, she is more so like an orphan. I mean, maybe she refers to him as her uncle, but even she probably knows that that's not actually her uncle. I don't know what to really make of it, but there's this whole situation of him, doing some investigations. He finds out about this stuff named dust, which we don't know what the hell that is. I was about to say, oh, was this supposed to be common knowledge? Whatever it is, it seems like adults know about it because all the other scholars knew about it. But obviously Lyra's what is dust? But he's it's some things you shouldn't know. Almost like you should hold on to your innocence, because this world is very messed up and dark. And it's I guess it's the whole thing of as an adult, you kind of grow up to be a little cynical. So it's you're still in that point where the darkness of the world hasn't touched you yet. Try to keep that for as long as possible. And it seems like the master at the school is trying to do the same thing too. Which, side note, I just thought about it too. That's kind of a bit of a Marvel connection too, because he played that detective back in season 1 of Jessica Jones. Granted that those, James McAvoy and Daphne Keane were X-Men side of things, so that was Fox stuff, whereas Jessica Jones was Marvel, to an extent. So it's just interesting to think about. Also, I had no idea he was a British actor before this. That was kind of blows my mind, because I also remember him from Person of Interest. Both Jessica Jones and Person of Interest, he used an American accent. Had no idea. So I was just I love when I find out that about actors. When I was oh my God. I go on tangents all the time. I love accents, dude. It's just, to me, that's just one of the most impressive things, when you're able to shift your accent like that and stuff. But regardless. But the thing is, he was talking about the fact is that they wanted to protect Lyra too. Like they made a promise all those years ago, which I'm wondering, is it to Azriel or was it to someone else? And Azriel was just kind of the middleman that kind of like brought Lyra to them. But even to the point that the master he even tried poisoning Azriel, which it's like, why would he do that? And even Azriel was kind of like, well, if I was him in his position, I would too. Because I guess everything that, Azriel was up to basically would put a target on the college's back from the magisterium, because it's like, you're looking into stuff you're not supposed to, because it's interesting, this world that is built up. I might have brought this up during the watch list or whatever, but it's kind of interesting because it kind of reminds me a little bit of Full Metal Alchemist. I didn't really realize that Full Metal Alchemist, the anime slash manga, more so the anime, because that's the only one I'm the most familiar with, that being the original anime, not Brotherhood, because I've yet to watch Brotherhood. It's a whole thing, but Full Metal Alchemist is like our world, but an alternate history where it's like alchemy exists. I didn't really realize that, and really that didn't sink in my head, because I thought, oh, this is just a world in its own, but it's like it's our world, but just kind of an alternate version of it. I didn't realize that until the first Full Metal Alchemist movie came out, because of everything that happens on the other side of the gate. If you're familiar, you know what I'm talking about, but it shows you like, oh, this is our reality back in like what, the 40s maybe, because it's around the time Nazis are around and stuff like that, I think. So it shows you that like, oh, Full Metal Alchemist was an entirely, maybe it's because I'm older now, I would understand that more watching. Going on a tangent, I'm sorry, but it's just an interesting parallel to make, that like obviously this is an alternate world because there's kind of a little bit of magic. Yeah, they don't really talk about it being magic, like everything with demons. Which, side note, like, I feel like that's popped up so much more recently with demons being spelled with an A. Like, I've always seen DEMON. It's not until more recent years that I've seen demons and that spelling of it. And it's popped up so much recently. I don't know, just thought that was kind of fascinating, because it's the same thing in like Final Fantasy 15 is like the most recent example that I'm aware of using that spelling of demons, but regardless. But even there existed, and it's also this neat little thing. I'm wondering why they're like that, but like basically they constantly shift forms until they decide like, this is the form I'm going to stay. And also the fact is they're magical talking animals, which is interesting, because like you even see with Lyra's demon Pan, he's constantly shifting throughout the episode, and I wonder what's the specific reason that makes him go like, okay, this is the form I'm gonna take because this is going to be more reliable and useful for my humans. What are the circumstances that lead to a demon deciding like, oh, I'm going to take this particular form? Is it is it depending on just 100% them? Is it connected to their partner? Like, how do demons and humans get paired up together? Is it just kind of like is it like almost the moment you're born, your demons decided? Like, do demons have like, what's their life expectancy? Because we had that conversation between Lyra and Roger, where we talked about the fact is that why is it that humans turn into skeletons, but when demons die, they just disappear? So I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing, kind of showing you obviously the difference between all of that. It's an interesting situation, kind of circling back about the whole Master and Azriel, like where things kind of stand between them, because like I said, the Master thought he was doing the right thing by getting rid of Azriel, because it's like it threatened everything that the college represented. It was kind of a safe haven, and Azriel looking into the things that he would gain the Magisterium's attention and kind of threaten everything that college represents, them having the freedom to do what they do. But at the same time, it's like, well, shouldn't he have the freedom to do what he's doing? Because obviously everything he's looking into is kind of showing that the fact is the Magisterium is kind of like they control this world, but it's a thing of like, he, like with this whole dust situation, he ends up finding out like, wait a minute, there's actually like a city in the sky that was kind of hidden away underneath the dust. So it's like, okay, so suggesting that there are other worlds out there that the Magisterium is kind of keeping from them. Like they control this world, but maybe there's other worlds out there that they don't control at the very least, like I was saying, like would they at least control the level of knowledge of like, you can kind of go beyond, you can't go beyond a certain point of learning too much, because there ends up being that dude. It's like, oh, that Azriel ended up finding his frozen head. Apparently he got killed because he stumbled across something he shouldn't have, which I'm assuming is the same stuff that Azriel's down that path as well. So, but we do see later on that And because that's what kind of like, because obviously there's a lot of like religious aspects to it, because like the praying that the scholars do, as well as like the whole like those two that were talking about what Azrael had found out, and it's like, oh, we're gonna have to take this to the Magistrium. Magistrium's a religious thing, isn't it? Like I'm ignorant on the religious side of things. I'm like not knowledgeable at all, but that's what that is, because even the dude was like, oh, sure thing, father. So, so it's like, oh, he's a priest or something. So like I said, that's why I feel like it is a thing of like, where it's supposed to be a separation of church and state. I guess in this world, it's a combination of church and state in a sense. So. And then there's also that interesting, I don't know if you even call it subplot, but kind of like this other side of the episode that deal with these people known as Egyptians. I wonder, are they supposed to be kind of like nomads? Because it seems like it's like, oh, we're kind of like seen as outsiders. And it's like, in what regard are they, I guess because maybe they move around, like no single place is their home. Maybe, I don't know. But, who they really are and what they kind of represent, we're kind of unsure, but it seems like it's not just this, like, I don't know, because the way the conversation makes it seem like there are multiple groups out there, like scattered around, like I guess different almost tribes in a sense, or maybe they're all kind of like all part of this one nomadic tribe, but they're all kind of scattered around. Like, but why are they kind of considered outsiders? Is it just because of their beliefs? That's what I'm wondering. Like, I guess if you go with the religious angle to things, maybe it's kind of like, oh, it's almost like a world of, Egyptians being people who don't believe what the magisterium kind of believes. So they're kind of cast out in a world of like, oh, I don't know. Because I don't know if they're really looked down as like, oh, these are supposed to be people who are less than or anything. They're just outsiders. Those are just, oh, those are Egyptians. It seems like there's meant to be like a distinction between them and anyone else. Because everyone else we really met within the story like that, Lyra is around, or, obviously regular folk, but mainly is scholars. I mean, she is at this particular college. So beyond that, like, we don't really know what the scope of, the world and the lands are, just, except for in this particular place of Oxford. Obviously, another place they're referencing is London, which that we're going to trail into that with the whole, well, obviously Tony's brother, Billy, has gone missing, and obviously their mom is just like, no, he's got to be here somewhere. He's lost his way home. But the dude John, who is kind of like, I think she referred to him as like, oh, you're the Western King or something like that. So it does make me think like it does seem like it might be a tribe thing of like, oh, different people, different one of the Egyptians groups has a different leader. Maybe it's kind of like a regional thing, like, oh, like all the Egyptians in the West, he looks over, hence why he's the Western King. Maybe, I don't know. Regardless of that, he brings up these people known as gobblers, which they're supposed to be myths. But like, I'm wondering why. I guess maybe they're called gobblers because they kind of gobble you up in the sense that they take you. But, is there something magical or supernatural about them? Or it seemed like they might just be regular folk, because we see that Roger ends up getting kidnapped at the end of the episode. Well, as well as Billy. But it almost seems like it might be one specific gobbler, but it doesn't mean there can't be multiple ones, because John had mentioned the fact is that there are Egyptian kids from different Egyptian groups having been taken too, and they think it's all leading to London. And it's also interesting too, because it's like, oh, like Roger just happens to get kidnapped at the time that Lyra is like, oh, I want to take Roger with me. Because I was curious about where that was going to go, because I was like, because obviously she didn't want to leave Roger around alone because like, hey, he's my best friend, he's like my only friend, because he's from what we can tell, he's the only person her same age at the at the college that she plays with and talks to. Everyone else is an adult, which that in itself might play into something, because obviously there's a whole thing about like Dust only being around adults but not kids. So what the hell does that mean? Does that mean like maybe because Dust, maybe it's a thing of like what adults are like consumed by dust. It's kind of how Azrael put it. Maybe it's like there's a boundary in that, like a world of magic that you can never access because you're covered in dust, because adults are all infused with dust. That the fact of the matter is, it's something only children who probably, I guess, kept their innocence is able to access. Maybe you can think of dust as almost like this magical, this anti-magic like essence that floats around them. or I don't know. Like I said, this is all pure conjecture at best. This is just me guessing like what this all means because we literally have no context in the grand scheme of things. And we also got introduced to Miss Coulter, which is interesting because it seems like the master is all for sending Lyra with her, but at the same time, it's like he's also putting her in a position, giving her that device, which he was like, there's only 6 of these made in total. But it's like interesting, like, oh, it's meant to tell you the truth. So, which begs the question, because she tries asking it about Roger, but it's like her and Pan have to be the ones to discover how to use it. But maybe it doesn't work like that. Maybe you have to ask it a true or false situation of like, is Roger here? Answer you, or maybe it can just answer straight up questions like that too. Like, there's no telling. Like, we didn't really see how it acts, so beyond that, we don't know what to really make of it. But it's interesting because like it almost seems like Lyra has this destiny of like something that the master had talked about. The fact is that she's going to have to go off on an adventure and she's going to suffer. There's going to be a betrayal, but it's not her being betrayed. It's her being the betrayer. And this is going to devastate her, whatever this betrayal is that she does. But the fact of the matter is we should be scared for her and of her, because whatever it is, the route she's going down and everything is going to be kind of changing everything. That the time is now for her to do it. Like, obviously the master wanted to keep her safe for so long. And even that dude who was the librarian was kind of like, they've grown fond of her and they've wanted to keep her safe. But it's like, now is the time, it might be a dangerous thing, but this is the path that she's meant to go down. It seems like they kind of fought it for so long, but now it seems like destiny is caught up and it's like, this is the time. Her time is now to kind of do all of this, whatever that is necessarily. Obviously, she wants to go to the north to follow her uncle, but which also proves to me, like, kind of make you go, her uncle, I don't know, man. Azra kind of seems like a dick because he's like, I don't have time for you. Like I said, I guess for him, it's like, the fact is we'll kind of have all the time in the world later because we just have to I have to do this now. I'm on the cusp of discovery, so that's where I'm like, I don't know where to stand. Like, when it comes to him and everything. I even love at one point, she was like, oh, can I see that severed head? He's like, what? No. Why would I let you do that? So there's something there. But I don't know. Like I said, I don't quite know. And I think it's actually befitting that we don't get to spend a lot of time with Azriel around Lyra, because even she doesn't get to spend a lot of time with him. So I think it kind of adds that disconnect of like, we're family and everything. I care about you, but apparently it's like, you'd rather kind of go elsewhere than rather be with me. So the thing is, does he know about her situation? Maybe not. Because Roger talked about the fact is, like, he was screaming like, I guess like, you should pay attention to Lyra, the fact that you should be with Lyra because the fact is your niece is great, she's special. But then, Azriel said something where it's like, we're all special. So that's supposed to be like, the fact is he's so caught up in everything, he doesn't see how special Lyra really is? Or is it supposed to be a thing of kind of representing the fact is we're all special in our own way? I recognize Lyra's way of being special, trying to say like, if we're all special, no one's special type of thing. I don't know how to interpret that. Maybe the first response is just, as clear cut of like, he doesn't recognize how special she is, but we'll see. I am curious though, like, is this Gobbler stuff anything connected to Miss Coulter? Because like I said, it's just Roger happens to get kidnapped. Because it's like, are they going after specific kids? Because they went after Billy, they're going after Roger. Because obviously Billy has a mom and a brother, so it's like he'll be missed. He has a community looking for him. But whereas Roger, he's an orphan, he has no one, but he does have one person that would be looking for him, and that's Lyra. They were all supposed to be kind of going to London anyway, so it's just interesting that it's like, oh, like everything's pointing towards London. Even Miss Coulter being like, oh, the fact of the matter is, like, the fact is she doesn't act like, oh, she at first makes it seem like, oh, I'm going to rescue your friend and everything. I promise you I'm going to do it. At the moment Lyra gets on the plane, it's like, oh, let's talk about Roger. It's like, no, let's not do that. And it's like, oh, she's working on paperwork. She's too jolly. I don't know if those were the circumstances around like, oh, we should be, coming up with a game plan to look for Roger. But I guess you can justify it by being like, oh, we don't know who we can trust, so we need to keep this on a hush hush. But I'm like, yeah, it's definitely something. Like I said, all roads are leading to London. Obviously, everything except for everything with Azriel, because his stuff is taking him further north. So like I said, it's an interesting setup. It's just like we literally don't know enough. I think it is that interesting thing of like, well, when do you reveal certain information? You probably don't want to overload too much in the first episode type of thing of like, okay, trying to trail you along to kind of give you bits and pieces of this world to understand how everything works and operates. And especially because we're getting it from Lyra's point of view because she's kind of discovering the world at the same time. So it kind of helps because it seems genuine because it's like, oh, she's learning this for the first time. So we as the audience are learning it for the first time. I think that might be the way they kind of approach it. But either way, I'm very interested to see where all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.